in Imperial Bravo, Spain. Ewan Cowie joins us. How are you, mate?
I'm pretty good, mate. I'm pretty good. Yeah, can't complain. It's been a busy summer. And what about you? All good?
Yeah, it's hectic at the moment, moving from Montreal to Toronto, and travel starting to open up again. So I know you've already been experiencing the travel. You've been all over the place these last 12 months.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I have. I've been the start of this year. I had a 2.5 month trip, basically where I didn't come back to Spain, where I live for the whole 2.5 months. So I ended up going using kind of Dubai as a base because that was open when a lot of other places weren't. And we went to Brazil, we went to the Maldives, we went to Namibia, and several times back and forth to Dubai before finally coming back to Spain where I live.
So you're a skydiver, but more importantly, you're a skydiving photographer and videographer. You're capturing imagery. You're working with a team. Tell me a little bit about your teamwork that you do.
Well, I work a lot with Airwax, who are world champions of free fly from 2018. Yeah. And yeah, we basically, I don't compete with them. I'm not the competition videographer that they had. That was Baptiste Welsh. But I go and do a lot of events with them all over the world. I go to film in wind tunnels, boogies, special events that we organize ourselves, such as jumping onto Copacabana Beach in Rio. And we basically have a lot of fun because we really love each other, and we just go awesome places and do awesome things. So it's a pretty cool team to be part of.
Well, just a minute, you've got the best gig here because you get to go to all the nice boogies and events, and you don't have to do the competitions. You can't cost them a medal.
Well, exactly. I think when Baptiste decided he didn't want to do any more competition, he'd been competing for many years at that point, and he wanted to focus on doing more tunnel. Then if Airwax had decided to compete again, I would have been their videographer. But they decided for various reasons. I mean, they've been competing together for 10 years at that point. Yeah. And they finally achieved their goal of becoming world champions. And then I think they wanted to move on to maybe more enjoyable aspects that you hinted of skydiving that you have the opportunity to do when you're world champion, and you have that experience and the contacts that they've made. So yeah, it's definitely been a good ride. I'm lucky.
Yeah, it's been. I'm sure it's going to continue for a long time. The stuff you're putting out there, your content is absolutely beautiful. I know you're a modest man, Ewan, and you're not a big ego type person at all. And I don't want to make you cringe, but you're one of the most sought after free fly videographers and photographers out there in the world at the moment, and the stuff you're producing is absolutely above and beyond. I mean, you must be aware of that. It must be quite fulfilling for you.
It's definitely it kind of humbling sometimes when people come up to you and they say things like, "Are you Ewan Cowie? Wow, I thought you'd be taller." But yeah, no, it's really good. Like my name has definitely got more and more out there, and like you say, I'm becoming more sought after, which is fantastic because I love doing what I do, and I love to always try and improve. And basically, it's like I'm being given the opportunities to improve and also make people happy by taking fantastic pictures of them and in amazing locations. So it's really, this year really feels like it's got back on track. Obviously with COVID, it was a difficult time for everyone. And, I was kind of questioning the security of the job I do because being a freelancer, you lose all your gigs as soon as something like this comes along, COVID. But this year's got back on track. And I really think for me, it's the way I want to go. So
yeah, fantastic. I mean, you are, you're a filmmaker in your own right. And, the artistry in what you produce, beautiful shots, the composition. I remember the first time your work really made me think, oh, he's doing something amazing here. It was quite a few years ago, and you produced, it was a little, just a little edit of a thing in Imperial Bravo, and at the end it was night shots. Do you remember it? And there were some lights that all went into soft focus at the end.
I think I remember the video you're talking about.
Yeah, it was really, really nice what you did. Just the end of it, how it went away with those shots. I mean, you must be aware of the artistry. You must be aware of the composition. And is this something that's always been in you? An eye for an image.
If I'm honest, I think of myself mostly from a scientific background. That's what I studied at uni. But when I was a kid, I did like art. I loved drawing, even creative writing, actually. So I think, there has been an artistic part of me, since I was a kid. And a funny story, actually, like I once got asked by a careers advisor at school, like someone who tries to help you decide what you want to do with your life. He was like, what would you want to do? What do you want to do? And at that point, I had no idea. And I said, I don't know, maybe photography. And so the guy started going on and on about how to become a photographer. And then I was like, actually, it's just something I said,
Yeah.
Maybe I just came into my head. I don't really want to be a photographer. No, stop talking about it. Stop talking about it. And then now I'm a photographer. So yeah, I guess maybe he was right.
See, these conversations, the reason I love them, one is because, we've known each other, I don't know, is it nearly 20 years or something like that? But we only see each other.
I've been jumping 18 years, and I think I met you pretty much straight after I started jumping. So,
yeah.
And 19 years now, actually, and in 2 weeks, it's going to be 19 years.
19 years. Yeah. And we normally see each other, it's a high five and how you're doing, and all. You don't get a chance to have a conversation. I had no idea you had a creative writing inside of you. Are you still doing any?
No, well, I guess the time to do that would have been in the lockdown, but it was a time where I was trying to think of things I could do to help my career, in terms of like speaking to the sponsors, giving them bucket loads of pictures to use, going through editing old stuff that I didn't have time to edit, things like that. And also basically, along with everyone else, looking at the world and panicking a little bit about what was happening. Yeah. But yeah, it's not something I've done recently, but if I ever did find myself with a couple of months of downtime, it's something that'd be interesting. I love to read, and in fact, when I drive long distance, I like to listen to audiobooks. Yeah. And it's something I'm always going to do, reading books, and one day, maybe I'll write one.
Yeah, I think you should. So, university, what did you do?
I did geology and physical geography, which kind of came around because I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I liked to be outside. So it was a course where you got to go and study interesting, areas of geology and geography in cool places like Cyprus. We went to Spain, we went to Arran, the Isle of Arran, where we drank an entire hotel out of beer. That was good. That's what university is about, really. Yeah. So I studied that, and that's kind of a science subject. And then I did a master's in remote sensing, which is like satellite imagery and climate change. But all that time while I was at uni, I was skydiving, and towards the end of it, working in skydiving as well. Yeah. So I did work in an office for 6 years, doing project management for renewable energy, which is still something that's close to my heart. I think climate change and renewable energy and these topics are very important, which some people might find hypocritical being a skydiver. But for example, here at Skydiving Imperial Bravo, the skydiving is carbon neutral, which is something that can help. And it doesn't mean we have to stop doing things like skydiving, but it means we have to be maybe more responsible about how we do them. So yeah, it's that's basically what I studied at uni and what I did, and then I basically gave it all up and became a full-time skydiver.
Was it St Andrews, the first parachute centre, or was it which one was it?
It was St Andrews. That's right. Yeah. Skydive St Andrews. In fact, I was in the freshers week of university, which is the first week you go to uni and you kind of don't do any courses, any lessons. You just go and meet other people and go and find out what sports clubs you want to join. And they had a demo skydive into the Meadows in Edinburgh. It's a park, and basically I saw these guys jump out of a small plane, open their parachutes and land, and I knew instantly that's what I wanted to do. Yeah. And I signed up that way. It was like, take my money. There was a stand there of the Edinburgh Uni Skydivers, and then 4 years later I was actually on the jump into the Meadows for the new Freshers Week. So why
did you want to do it then? What was it that made you instantly think I want to do this? What was it about it? What had you been doing previously? Sports.
I did a lot of sports as a kid. Swimming, ice hockey, karate, gymnastics. My parents were always encouraging me to do sports and helping me, picking me up and dropping me off from, ice hockey practice and stuff like that. And so I always liked sports and I always liked the outdoors. And but in the north of Scotland, skydiving isn't a thing that you imagine is possible outside the military or whatever. But like many people, I saw Point Break, and Fly Like an Eagle, baby. I still remember that, and I just remember thinking that it was the most incredible thing I'd ever seen. And then when I saw the jump into the Meadows in Edinburgh, I realized that actually something like that was a possibility for me, which I had never realized up to that point. And I just couldn't stop, basically.
When did you realise this could be your life, that you could make it a career? When was that change?
Well, me and a friend, Daz, were always talking about how we'd like to set up an AFF school or something, and take students abroad, or just teach them in Scotland when the weather was good. And, that was an idea. But then he kind of got more into career stuff, and I did for a while, but we both got our AFF ratings together, actually. And we did use it in the UK, but, weekend stuff. And I would go and do some trips abroad to like Skydive Spain with people taking courses abroad that needed an extra instructor. So at that point I was thinking, okay, you can make some money, but it's difficult. And it is difficult to be a full-time skydiver, especially freelance. And then I moved to France with my girlfriend at that time. So I quit my job, which I was already beginning to get a bit, I needed a change basically for that. And so I moved to France, and I was looking for work, but it wasn't that much for someone who doesn't speak much French. And basically started doing more and more trips abroad. I was also going back to the UK to do tunnel coaching and AFF, and also trips to do AFF, and starting to film events and that sort of thing. And at that point, I was also in the UK VFS team, QFX. So I was doing a lot of training with them. And it kind of just accidentally became my full-time job. I was still looking for work, and then I stopped looking so much for normal work, and then I basically just got busy being a skydiver.
Then was it about then that that's Dubai became is that your doggy? What's the name of the dog?
Sky.
Hey, Sky.
I think she might be snoring, actually.
Oh, there she is. It just popped up from them.
Yeah, I hope it hasn't messed your audio, actually.
No, she's fine.
Yeah,
not to my cable out. Nothing wrong with having a dog in the picture. She's watching what's going on. But then Dubai came to your horizon, didn't it? Was that just after France, or was that?
That came about because of our mutual friend, Joshua Caird.
Yeah. And
actually, that video you were talking about, the one where you said you really liked it with the soft focus lights, that's the video that kind of got me in the job at Jetman, because he showed that to his one of his bosses when they said they needed a photographer, a cameraman to document the process of the team, basically. And he showed him that video, and he said, yeah, it looks like he knows a thing or two, so let's get him out for a trial. And my first job, my first day working with Jetman was the A380 project, where they were flying next to, the A380 above the marina in Dubai.
Yeah, Bruno was on that as well, wasn't he?
That's right, yeah, Bruno was actually in the plane. I was on the ground. They didn't trust me with anything like that at that point. But still, the most incredible thing I'd seen in my life up to that point.
Yeah.
And so they liked what I did, and so I started to work with them. Basically, I did a year and a half full time, and then since then, there was some issues with Dubai, where some people getting let go from jobs they had for a long time, like the teams and that sort of thing, and a restructuring, should we say? And basically, Jetman was one of those projects that was put on hold for a while. So we all went back to the real world. Well, skydiving for me, but the other guys, like the engineers, went back to working on helicopters and that sort of thing. And then when the project started up, they hired some people back full time. And personally, for me, I realized that I still wanted to work in skydiving, and working with Jetman full time meant I did less skydiving work. So I worked only on the projects. So we still did some interesting stuff. We went to the Dolomites, we went to China. And they'd still come to Imperial Bravo in the summer, so I was already here, so I could work with them when they did that. So for me, that was a good balance.
Yeah, and now you're based out of Imperial Bravo. You're working with the camera team there.
Yes, exactly. I have a really good balance, I think, for me. I have the summer. I do say 3 months: July, August, September, and the busiest part of the season on the tandem video team, which I really enjoy. It's a great team. I really love the guys. And the work, and being able to work where I live is really valuable to me, because I live here with my girlfriend Jess, and if I'm traveling all the time, it makes it really difficult. But so that means I have, say, 3 months working, and also usually in the summer there's a freelance work I can get in Imperial as well for private clients or events. Like I work with the Fly Warriors in Babylon as well for events they do. Doing free fly camera. So it usually means around 5 or 6 months even in Imperial straight, with maybe a couple of trips here and there, but mostly in Imperial. And then in the winter, that's when I travel a lot more, when the season's quiet here, and then we start to have other events like in the Southern Hemisphere or other parts of the world that don't suffer so much from winter, like Dubai and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have a really good balance for what I want to do, and let's just hope it continues. So far, so good.
Do you have to turn down many events for during those busy summer periods? Do you get offers? You must get offers where you have to say, no, I'm here doing these tandems, I can't go.
Yes, actually, and there was one that Greg and Karine have been talking about for a long time, and that was Lençóis. It's the incredible formation of dunes in the north of Brazil, and it's basically white sand dunes, huge dunes, like 100 meters tall. And when it rains there for a couple of months a year, the low places between the dunes get full of these basically lenticular lakes, and so it's just sand dunes and lakes for as far as the eye can see. So they got to do an event there this summer, but it was the 2 busiest weeks of the tandem video season for me. And if I can't do those 2 weeks, then you know, it's not of much interest for the drop zone to hire me for the rest of the time when it's not as busy. So I had to make a choice then, you know, and it was 3 months work compared to 2 weeks work. So yeah. But yeah, it's starting to happen, which in some ways is a good measure of the fact that people want me to work with them, that I'm having to turn some work away. But so far, I've been able to do most of what I've been asked to do. Sometimes it means like working, you know, a month straight with only 2 days off or something like that. But, you know, that's because I love what I do. That's something I'm willing to do at the moment, you know.
That's freelance. That's freelance life. That is
exactly.
Life of a freelancer. How do you deal with date clashes? That's always one of the biggest nightmares. You know, you've got a gig and then something else comes along at exactly the same dates. How do you know, it's a difficult one. You must have had a few of those, eh?
Yeah. It's you basically just have to, if it's something confirmed, then you have to honor the first one that you've agreed to. Yeah. If it's something that's not completely confirmed, I guess you have to speak to them and say, look, I have some interest on this. I'm going to double check if they still need me. If not, then I'll get back to you. But yeah, I basically try and honor as much as I can the first commitment I've made. So I don't want to be the sort of person that cancels something to go and do a longer work or better paid work somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly. That's the only way to do it. Of course it is. So what have you got coming up over the, moving into the winter now? It's still nice weather, of course, in Imperial Bravo. Where are we? Beginning of October. Yeah, things are still very nice and good.
Yep. No, up until 2 days ago, I would have agreed with it, but it's been raining a little bit and windy for the last couple of days. But, well, you know, that's what happens. It starts to get a bit more unstable, but you can still get nice weather this time of year. Yeah. So, yeah, where do I go next? I go to France on Thursday for 2 days to film the indoor French championships, so in the wind tunnel. Yeah, I do a lot of photography in the wind tunnel, so that's something that they've asked me to do to document their competition. And then I have let me just check my calendar actually, because it's easier to do that than remember off the top of my head.
While you're doing that, I just want to touch on the wind tunnel photography a little bit, Ewan, because it is a very special type of photography. You've got a lot of glass, a lot of reflections, and it's an enclosed space, so you need wide angles, but you get some incredible imagery. What's the how did you develop that kind of skill, and how did you pick it up? Did you study anybody else, or did you just get in there and figure it out?
I mean, I did have a look at some other pictures that I liked from in the tunnel. That, you know, I was thinking, how did they do that? What lens did they use? What flash did they use? That sort of thing. But I just kind of evolved a system that worked for me. And it sometimes you have to change it depending on the wind tunnel, because sometimes they have a lot of ambient light, sometimes they have none, sometimes they have a different background. But yeah, I basically just mostly worked it out myself, with also looking at, you know, other photographers that I admire and trying to figure a way to, you know, replicate or improve whatever they were doing, which I'd recommend to anyone as a photographer. You know, you need to look at the people that inspire you and take inspiration, take notes from what they do and work on it. But yeah, the wind tunnel is it's something I've done a lot with Greg and Karine, and that kind of helped me evolve my method of doing the photography, because they were always keen for pictures, and you know, I loved working with them. I was doing some bit of tunnel coaching, or they were coaching me in the tunnel, trying to get my skills up. And you know, I would help them out by taking pictures of them for promotion and things like that. And then I started to get more and more paid clients, people that they'd seen the pictures that I'd taken and they wanted to hire me for a couple of sessions to take pictures and edit the pictures of them. But yeah, it's a complicated thing. Like you say, there's a lot of reflections on the glass. You have a lot of ambient light or light points in the background, people moving around in the background. You have to be aware of what people are doing in the background of your shots. And the editing, the post-processing is also important. You can do a lot to minimize the glare of the flashes on the glass, highlight the people a bit. How much post-processing you want to do is down to you. You can really go all out if you want. And I did one photo, I think it took me 8 hours to edit. It was a photo of Greg where we'd made a montage of him in every position in the tunnel and basically used Photoshop to put it all together into one picture. And I was proud of it, but it's not something I want to do for every tunnel picture I take.
Yeah. Are you shooting from the door a lot?
Usually, yes, because that minimizes the reflections on the outside of the glass.
Yeah.
But you're still going to have reflections on the inside. You can't do much about that. But if you're shooting through the glass, often you'll get reflections on the outside and the inside. So shooting from the door, is usually what I do. Although sometimes I shoot from outside as well.
Yeah. What have you got going on in your life apart from your relationship and your dog and your work? Have you got some other stuff as well you managed to fit in?
Well, we actually started paragliding more just after the lockdown, before the drop zone was open. It was a way of kind of getting in the air when we couldn't skydive. So we started paragliding a bit more. I'd like to get more into climbing, although being a freelancer and traveling a lot, it's kind of hard to keep the strength up, because you have to try and find somewhere to practice when you're on the road. It's not that easy. Yeah. But at the moment, I'm kind of really focused on the work. It's kind of consuming me a bit at the moment.
You're riding that wave. You're on the top of that wave, boy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. See where it takes me.
Yeah, it's absolutely wonderful. What's your ideas for the future? Just carrying on as you are, or have you got other ideas for things that you might want to do?
One thing I would like to get into, which I'm sure a lot of people in my position would also like to get into, is doing work with films or adverts, that side of things. I think that could be really exciting. Obviously, it's not the easiest thing to get into, because I think once you have a film under your belt, you're going to get asked to do another one and another one. So I think that first one is probably the key one to get into.
Yeah.
You're not going to go straight into.
Would you consider moving to LA for that? Yeah.
I really like living in Imperial, to be honest.
Oh, isn't it? Europe, but it's lovely in Europe, isn't it? It's hard to.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm willing to travel, so that's what I do mostly anyway in the winter. It's travel and then come back and chill or edit for a week or two and then go and travel somewhere else, so. But if it was a shoot of 2-3 months, then of course, it's the sort of thing that you got to do. And it really interests me. I don't know if there's a possibility to do that or how you get into it or what sort of work it would entail, but it's definitely something that I'm keen to do. I've done an advert for Renault, which was an interesting eye-opener to the way it works, and it's something I'd be keen to do more of.
Were you doing the free fall stuff for that, were you?
Yeah, the free fall stuff with Richie Pym and Alan Dunny as the stuntmen.
Then working with the director as well, that's interesting, isn't it, when you've got the director?
Yep. And obviously if they're not the skydiver, then you have to find ways to interpret what they want and maybe explain what's possible.
What's possible, what's not possible.
Yeah, exactly. But I've got my calendar. If you want, I can.
Sure. Let's hear it. Let's see what you're doing.
Yeah. So we got the indoor championships in Lyon, in France. Yeah. And then I'm in Aix, which is a wind tunnel in France. After that, different one with Airwax. Then I'm filming Kira Poe in Imperial Bravo for a few days. And then after that, I go out to Egypt and we're going to jump over the pyramids with Kira and also with Airwax, with a couple of French comedians, actually, really famous French comedians. Yeah. And we're also going to jump with Fred Fusion. He's going to be out there, so we're going to do a jump with him. Then I'm going to Texas to film an online camera course for a company called Crave, who are making basically online courses of swooping and all aspects of skydiving, free flying, belly jumps, camera flying. They asked me to do the camera flying part. Right. Then I have a couple of tunnel camps with Airwax, where I'm going to be helping them coach. Then I go to Scotland for Christmas. Nice. First time for 2 years because of the COVID situation. So that's going to be good. I haven't seen my family for 2 years. Oh, wow. So yeah, it's going to be good to see them. And then I go to Foz do Iguaçu in Brazil for the New Year boogie there. Then we go back to Copacabana, ideally to do some jumps there. And then probably Mexico, the Maldives, back to Spain to Seville, then Namibia, the Seychelles, and then it starts the summer in Imperial Bravo.
Fantastic. Well, what a great session you've got coming up for the next few months. And I think that's a good place to leave it as well. Ewan, it's been brilliant to catch up with you. Have you enjoyed it?
Yes, it's been interesting. I don't know if what I said made any sense, but you know, that's your job to make it.
A ramble along your life. That's all we're looking for. Listen, say hello to everybody in Imperial Bravo for me, and thanks for joining us on Air Sports News. Take care, my friend.
My pleasure. Cheers.